So today we're going to basically discuss something that has been close to my heart, close to the Nutanix heart, of how we make infrastructure invisible. We started with this. We started with the objective. This company was started with the objective of making the infrastructure invisible. And where are we on that journey? This was what we started with as a motto. And as we progressed, over the last 3 years, we've been selling in India. We're close to around 500 customers in India today during our journey. What I realized is it is not really about the machines. It's not really about the machines. It was about making life simple and ensuring that your digital journey actually brings out the visibility of your teams. The machines need to be invisible, but what needs to be visible is the impact they are creating. The teams, there are so many projects that you will possibly do where the teams are invisible. The impact needs to be visible, not really the machines on which it runs. The application, the services need to be visible, not really the machines on which it runs. Take an example of Google or Facebook or Alibaba or Amazon. That's what they do. What is visible is the impact they've created, not really where they run, how they run, what they do. Now, and we spoke a lot about digitization, digital this, digital that, and what is for me personally, digital means only one word: experience. If you can deliver the experience to your teams, to your businesses, to your customers, that is digitization, period. Nothing else. We can say whatever technology is behind this doesn't matter. Now, this is a photograph I took today morning. Just when you are coming out of the Jaipur airport, you'll see this. Somebody has placed a nice ad, somebody from SBI has placed a nice ad right at the exit. YONO Cloud. You only need one. And what is this doing? You know, I'm a user of this. I like this app. This is one single app which is now actually making these so many apps invisible. How many of you are SBI customers? I've been an SBI customer for 20 years. Have you tried YONO? You haven't, right? Yeah, I see one. Yeah, we are digital champions, guys. Everybody spoke digital. Right? Communication. This is consumerization of communication, right? Tell your 80-year-old mother to send an email. See what happens. But tell her to send a WhatsApp on a family group. What happens? They are active. People who are not technology savvy are active. Okay? And miniaturization of the compute. Miniaturization of personal computing. Desktop, laptops, tablets, smartphones, everything getting miniaturized. Now, if you really see, the enterprise world actually mimics the consumer world. Atomization of computing. And we as a company started with trying to atomize the data center. Storage, compute, networking. This was the birthplace of what some of the people said today, HCI, hyper-converged infrastructure. You converge things, you converge network, you converge storage, you convert compute, you converge the cloud. Now, what does it entail? When you try to converge all of these, what are the challenges? It's not easy. It's not an easy problem to solve because there are laws of the land. Anything that you do, there are laws of physics and there are laws of economics. And when we as a service provider, as an OEM, design our applications for you, design our infrastructure for you, design our software for you, all of these need to be taken into consideration. Now, if we don't take this into consideration, there are going to be challenges. There are going to be challenges, lots of them. Okay? And let me show you one of the challenges. Assume this is a monolithic cloud. I mean, you may have a private cloud, you may be on a public cloud. You're using a cloud. Now, today, in the world of the hybrid, you could actually use a lot of clouds. You could be using clouds based on use cases. You could have a cloud for CRM, you could have a cloud for mails, you could have a cloud for SAP, you could have a cloud for whatever. And it could all be different clouds, right? Now, when you have a different cloud, you could have a core, you could have remote, you could have edge, everything that you possible can be hired today. So what happens next? Where is your control plane for all these clouds? What is controlling all these clouds in your industry? I mean, I think I heard Mr. Natarajan said, for him actually, if you look at what he said, his biggest challenge was the control plane because he is diverse. He is right from Andaman Nicobar to Kerala, coast of Kerala to Goa to wherever, right? Basically what your challenge of all is basically a control plane, nothing else, right? That's what you are fighting with. Everything else can be made to work. Now, that's how we started. Now, how are we trying to address this issue? As a company, we started by having at a core an operating system and a control plane. For the first thing, the first act of Nutanix as a company was to segregate the control plane and the data plane. We segregated. If you look at our products, the HCI, it's a completely different architecture from a lot of things what our competition does, or a lot of things the world is doing right now. Second, we built a hypervisor which is cloud ready. It doesn't matter what hypervisor you use. You don't go and ask Amazon what hypervisor you use, right? Half of the people who use Amazon don't know what hypervisor you're using. Where it doesn't matter. What matters is compute, storage, RAM, or whatever application, middleware, databases you want. You ultimately need to run your business, not really manage the infra. The second thing that we did is basically building an orchestration layer. An orchestration layer which can span different clouds, which can provide you services, which can provide you hardware in the form of a software. So no more controllers and storage controllers for block storage or files or object or whatever. Everything becomes a software. And lastly, the cloud. Now, all of these, whether it's an IoT platform which we define or a frame or a VDI platform that we present in the cloud, is managed by a single pane of glass, a single control plane. It doesn't matter. It can use our cloud, you can use AWS, you can use Azure, you can use GCP. It doesn't matter what cloud you're on. It doesn't matter what hyper UI you're using. You could use VMware, you could use Hyper-V, you could use our built-in AHV. It doesn't matter. A control plane which manages everything. So our first act. So now what happens is, the first app that Nutanix created, the first thing, we created an Acropolis operating system. What did that application do? The first thing that it did, it made your storage into an app. Think of Google. What did Google file system do? Right? If you really see, before Google, your search engine was Yahoo, who was NetApp's biggest customer in the world. And Google said, no, that's not the way we are going to grow. They put 2 or 3 years of engineering effort into building a file system that actually used the internal disks of a server and made it into a scale-out storage, because petabytes and exabytes of data was not going to be controlled by storage controllers, could not have been controlled by storage controllers. So the foundation of Nutanix was to get those technologies to run your enterprise applications. So the first thing that we did is build a distributed file system, created the storage into an app. The second application that we developed was Prism, which is basically the control plane that we speak about, and that is a control plane which is not directly related to our data plane. Now, this was the foundation of what we call the enterprise operating system, enterprise cloud OS rather, enterprise cloud OS. And thirdly, we built the hypervisor which I spoke about, and fourth is basically we recently announced the Xi Cloud, our own public cloud. Now, what is the difference here? What is so different about this? Think of it. If you are a cloud user, you could be using an Amazon, you could be using Microsoft, you could be using VMware, you could be using Red Hat. The control planes of all these cloud providers is entirely different. There is no correlation between them. Here, we are trying to solve the control plane issue and create a true hybrid. You can be on-prem, you can be off-prem, doesn't matter. Your control plane is the same. And it's a very difficult problem to resolve. I'm not claiming we've resolved it entirely. But here is a vendor who is basically giving you an on-prem service and an off-prem service all in the same control plane. Right? Think of it. Amazon last year, and again I'm repeating this because Amazon last year came out and said we will have Amazon Outpost. which will be an on-prem. They don't have the product probably a year down the line or 2 years down the line, God knows when. But the announcement is very crucial because it is an admission of the fact that hybrid, on-prem and off-prem are there to stay. And basically, if on-prem and off-prem are going to be there, your control plane and consumption model needs to be similar, right? So once you've done that, you basically extend the enterprise cloud operating system to control everything that you have under the hood. And what is visible to you now and your teams is only the cloud operating system. The underlying hardware, the underlying hypervisor, underlying cloud is abstracted completely. Now, basis our vision, okay, Gartner rates us, Forrester, IDC rates us as the #1 provider of an enterprise cloud. All of this that I said. And I'm going in a little bit more quickly to cover it because in the interest of time, right. What it also, this is our vision, and this is a year ago, we basically went to Wall Street and said, since 1981, this is statistically correct from a Silicon Valley perspective, 1091 companies, software and services companies were incorporated in the Silicon Valley. 301 companies actually achieved a revenue of 100 million per year as a software company. 45 of which actually then went on to achieve a revenue of 1 billion. And only 15 actually ever went on to do 3 billion in annual software revenue. And these are all the large software companies that you know of, right? We as Nutanix, it's our aspiration to become the 16th company to be closing in on 3 billion in revenue by 2021. And how are we going to do it? We announce our public cloud, we are announcing our services, whether it's a application driven service, whether it's a desktop driven service, whether it's a virtualization driven service, whether it's an application database driven service, whether it's an analytics driven service, which will then on top of it mount on our cloud, and it will be available to you seamlessly in the same control plane online or offline, on-prem or off-prem, right? So together with your help, in fact, there are quite a few customers. When I started 3 years ago in Nutanix, the first thing that we had to do is explain customers what is HCI, what is the need for HCI, what is the need for this compact, infrastructure, how does the ease help you, one-click updates, updating systems when your applications are running, no weekend work. Think of it, the impact on your teams, no weekend work. We promise customers you don't have to do updates on a Nutanix system on a weekend. Do it when your applications are running, right? All of these capabilities that we have delivered, and actually today, in fact, a lot of CIOs haven't come, but at least there were 15 to 20 CIOs who are already our customers who are here. Today I met up with Bhavesh, I met up with the CIO of SL. So feel free to engage with us, feel free to ask us questions right now, we'll be around, and feel free, take the jump. If you really look at, and as somebody was saying, the phase of the early adopters is over. It's the early majority now which will basically be adopting this. And hence, we are actually going to be in a hyper growth mode where the early adopters and the late adopters are who are the people who are going to adopt this technology, whether it's a public cloud, whether it's HCI, whether it's a private cloud, whether it's a hybrid piece. Okay. With that, I'll stop my presentation. I do have possibly a minute, if I'm not wrong, for a question or two, if it's okay. Any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, then I think I'm standing between you and drinks. Thank you so much, guys. Please feel free to engage with us. Thank you.